Welcome. We are here today to discuss executive compensation plan benefits. Our goal today is to give you a foundation of knowledge if your spouse participates in one of these employer-sponsored programs. And Nicole and I are actually here today to share with you how you can have a team approach in your divorce process. And you're going to hear various types of people that we can bring on board to help you in this process. This is most likely your first time in a divorce situation. And so it's important that you make yourself knowledgeable about different aspects of the divorce process. So first, I'm going to let you get to know Nicole a little bit better. Nicole, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tanya. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Ramito. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm a lead advisor and partner with Private Vista. We are a wealth management and financial planning firm, one of the largest in the Chicagoland area. And we have offices in the Loop and in Oak Brook. And where I fit in on your divorce team is to work with you and your attorney to help you to help guide you on the financial aspects of your divorce, whether it's helping evaluate possible settlement options and what do they mean for you on a forward-looking basis, and also to have you start forming a relationship with someone who can help you with your financial planning decisions ongoing, even well beyond the divorce. So that's a little bit about me. Tanya, how about you?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Tanya Harvey. I have been a practicing attorney here in the Chicagoland area. I have offices in the Loop as well as in the western suburbs in Wheaton area. My practice is predominantly focused in collaborative law as well as mediation. And I also do litigation as well, but we always want to try to have a team approach and do either collaborative law or mediation. And so now that you've gotten to know a little bit about how we can help you in your divorce situation, we're going to allow Nicole to share with us some various executive compensation programs that your spouse may receive.
Yes, that's a great place to start because as we know, there is a whole slew of these type of programs, and they're typically referred to by an acronym. They all share the same goal, which is to reward employee performance over time. The idea is to get the employee to work to increase the stock price and/or financial performance of the company. They also are geared to keeping the employee at the company for a longer period of time. Now, as I mentioned, there are a whole host of these programs, but Tanya and I are going to focus on the three that we most commonly see. The first is called stock options. Now, there are a few different types of these programs, but in general, what a stock option is it gives the right to buy a share of the company's stock at today's current share price, but you're able to do it sometime in the future. So the idea is that the stock price will go up over time, and therefore you can buy it at a lower price than what you could if you just went out and bought it on the market. And that difference in price or the gain, that's the reward for the employee. Mm-hmm. The next program we typically see is, in general, I would say it's grouped into what's called RSUs or restricted stock units. But again, there are a variety of plans that could be called warrants or restricted stock shares, restricted stock programs, again, a whole alphabet soup. With these type of programs, the employee is awarded shares of stock, but what the catch is they cannot sell them right away. There'll be a period of time, which is called the vesting period, over which that time, which is typically 3 to 4 years, the shares will vest. And once they are vested, then the employee can sell them. One thing to keep in mind is if you or your spouse is a high-level executive at the company, there may be limited windows during the year when they're allowed to sell the stock. The last program we wanted to touch on is long-term incentive plan, or LTEP. This is tied to the performance of the employee's unit and the overall company. These plans usually last for about 3 to 4 years. So at the beginning of the plan, there'll be targets which are set. And if the targets are met, then the money will be paid out to the employee. These plans also may have a vesting period as well. So now that we've talked about a few of the common plans we generally see, Tanya, how do you find out, A, if these types of assets are in your marital estate, and what type of information would you want to have?
Yeah, it's different based upon the process that you're in. If we're in the collaborative process or the mediation process, then typically the parties and the attorneys can exchange the information very openly. There's no need to go into court, there's no need to serve subpoenas, and we can exchange the documents openly and freely. And once you see those statements, those documents, and the benefits from the employer, then you can see what were awarded to your spouse. And you'll see things such as stock options, RSUs, deferred compensations, all of the things that we previously discussed. But there is a point of time that maybe your spouse does not want to turn over the documents. And they may say, I earned these during the marriage. I should get them. I don't want to share with you what we have. And so at that point, if your spouse does take that route, there is the ability to send subpoenas directly to the company. And so at that point, if there's any issues of trust or concern that your spouse isn't turning things over, you can just send a subpoena straight to the company, and then the documents will be sent over back to the attorney. So that does happen in certain situations. The goal obviously is always to work collaboratively in a mediation or collaborative law setting. But if we do have to take the litigation route and issue subpoenas, we can do that. And that sometimes provides a peace of mind for my clients. So that way they know that everything's been disclosed, everything's been turned over. So once we have the documents, you can see what is it exactly your spouse has. And so then once we have the documents, this is when we turn over to Nicole and we say, Nicole, what are we going to do here now that we have the documents? So what's the next step, Nicole?
Yeah, so I think, having all the documents is definitely key before you can begin to evaluate anything about this type of asset. In particular, because these plans are governed by the plan document and the summary plan description, you need to understand what the lay of the land is with the plan, because that will dictate how these assets are treated within your divorce. In addition, because these are also, they're different ways to value them than most of the other assets in your estate. If you want to find out the value of your home, it's pretty easy. You hire an appraiser, and for a small amount of money in a short period of time, you can have the market value of your home. Same thing with a 401k. You can either look at your last statement or log into the site and, easily get what the, most recent value was for that type of an account. With these types of assets, it's not as straightforward and not as easy. So it's very likely that you will also want to have a valuation expert added to the team for this particular asset. They can help, determine what the value is. Also to talk about if any portion of it's non-marital, and then also to help understand what the tax consequences are. That's the other thing we'd like to talk about as well, is there are tax consequences to these assets. And again, it's going to depend on the type of plan, and then your individual tax situation and that of your soon-to-be ex-spouse. But the key thing there is just make sure that you are discussing tax consequences, because they can be very large with these type of plans. And last but not least is these plans generally have limited liquidity. And what we mean by that is on like a bank account where you could either just transfer money between accounts, or you could go into the banking center or the ATM and make a withdrawal, depending on, as we talked about, the vesting schedule, and then also too, what the stock price is doing. You can't just sell when you want. So that's another thing to be aware of when you're looking at these plans. So now that we've kind of gone through identifying, valuing some of the possible, tax consequences and access or liquidity issues, what would we do next, Tanya, in regards to moving through the process?
Typically at this point, we have now put all the assets down on a balance sheet. And the balance sheet basically identifies all the different types of assets and liabilities that we have in your marital estate. And at that point, it gives you a great snapshot picture of what your marital estate looks like. And now it's important to have the conversation with your attorney to decide, how do I want my future to look like? And that will also help you determine what assets would I like to have and what would be most beneficial for me. And in doing so, you need to think about the importance of having liquidity or cash on hand, because you want to think about, what do I want to do when I'm divorced? Do you want to buy a new home? Do you want the cash available to buy a new car or buy a second vacation home? It just depends on what you want to do. The other thing that you need to think about again is, how long do you want to be connected to your future ex-husband in order to determine how long you want to be connected in terms of vesting. And what that means is that if you are allocated a vesting type of asset, then that asset will not likely be accessible until the future. And so, do you want to be tied to your ex-spouse and ask that person for statements and other things that they need to keep you apprised of? Those are things that you have to ask. Do I want to be done once the judgment is entered, or do I want to be connected and be asking for future statements and other information? Do I want to ask if my spouse is still working? Those are things that you need to consider. So once you have had an opportunity to talk to your lawyer and decide, how do I want my future to look, then that's what ends up going into the judgment for dissolution. And that's what is put into the marital settlement agreement. And then at that point, you need to think about what is next. And so that's why we like having Nicole on the team, to be able to tell you and discuss what your options will be. So at that point, you reach out to Nicole and we ask her, how am I going to manage these awards? What did I actually get in this settlement? What am I going to do now post decree? So Nicole, could you share with us a little bit about the future?
Absolutely. And I know oftentimes, Tanya, when I'm talking to clients at this point in the process, they say, oh, thank goodness I'm divorced, we're done. And while it's true you are divorced and that part of the process is complete, I have to inform them that really the real work is just beginning, because now we need to make sure, first of all, that all the assets in which you're maintaining from the marital estate, that we get them transferred into accounts that are under only your control. Some of these can be what we kind of say one and done. So if it's a brokerage account or a cash on hand, that's easy. We take the financial exhibit and we say, okay, you're supposed to get 50%. Let's move it into an account only in your name. If you are going to be participating in some of these ongoing executive compensation plans, that's where Tanya was talking about. Of course, it's going to be all outlined in your marital settlement agreement and judgment, but really, having someone to work with you ongoing so that they can actually pull together in one place, what are the various vesting dates? What are the various holding periods, and laying out so you understand the dates of when you should be either A, getting shares or proceeds, or B, when you can sell shares if there's a holding period. The other thing to think about too is understanding the tax consequences. So you might get restricted stock units and they vest. Do you want to hold on to the shares of the company, or do you want to sell them? Depending on when you sell them, there can be different tax consequences, both in the amount of tax and the type of tax. The other thing to look at too, as they're vesting, is, how much of your overall net worth or your investment portfolio do you want this one company to represent? So these are just kind of the few of the higher level things that you're going to want to be working with someone who understands your overall picture so they can help you make educated and informed decisions around what this is probably going to be a very important piece or a very large piece of your marital, of your part of the settlement.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us more information about the compensation plans. And we hope that you have been able to learn a little bit more about the team process and how it's important to have a solid foundation and team working with you during this divorce process. We also wanted to add to and note that we really encourage you to have a mental health professional involved in the process too, to just help you with the emotional aspects of this, whether it's a long-term marriage or a short-term marriage. So again, feel free to reach out to Nicole or I, and our information will be available in the video. And we hope to be able to provide you future information on different aspects of the divorce process. Thank you for being with us today. Have a great day.
Yes, thank you so much. And we do want to just impart, and it is a little bit of a cliche, but honestly, knowledge is power. So the more you know and the more robust of a team you have around you, the easier go of it you will have through what will be a difficult process. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.